a white debater on their team, which inherently means they have more whiteness than us. We obviously know that JJ is not white. It's pretty obvious. Go down onto our pick. We give you 3 warrants why we subsume all of their protests and affirm their protests. In a pick, what it means is you are furthering their cause just minus the whiteness. As Rebecca is a vehicle for this movement, we say whiteness is really bad for representation in queer people in order to further a movement. Then using black suffering to advance in the tournament is just a bad thing to do. Then
I'm kind of confused.
Just minus the whiteness. As Rebecca is a vehicle for this movement, we say whiteness is really bad for representation in queer people.
This is really wild. This was going viral over the weekend as well. This is from a national high school debate that took place on Zoom, and you might fall out of your chairs on this one if you just watch how they have broken national high school debates. These are supposed to be the brightest kids debating the most important things in a decent, honorable, respectful way, and just watch the way this thing devolves.
They have a white debater on their team, which inherently means they have more whiteness than us. We obviously know that JJ is not white. It's pretty obvious. Go down onto our pick. We give you 3 warrants why we subsume all of their protests and affirm their protests. In a pick, what it means is you are furthering their cause just minus the whiteness. As Rebecca is a vehicle for this movement, we say whiteness is really bad for representation in queer people.
I'm kind of confused on what I'm watching, if I'm being honest. I heard a lot of buzzwords, representation, whiteness. I'm not even gonna lie, y'all. I don't know what she's talking about. I really don't. I have no idea. I heard Rebecca, whiteness, but it's like she's so passionate about something. I don't even know if she knows what she's passionate about. I don't really know what's going on. Like, she's mad over whiteness, but it doesn't even sound like she knows why. Really weird.
Representation in queer people, and it's a bad form of furthering this protest. The best way to further the protest is to vote for our pick and to affirm it, but minus the whiteness. They say that we're taking over JJ's labor, but first, this is a new response. If they read this response before, we probably would have read a capke about how you can't use labor across identity lines. That's a really bad thing to do. Second, how picks work is you affirm their protest. We're not taking over their labor. It's just a technicality of debate. Then they say that it's trans exclusion. No. Couple responses that they dropped from Sanji. 1, our constructive speech was about personal experiences about our identity. We are not comfortable discussing our sexuality on a live stream with 130 people. Second, we say that them telling us how we should represent our advocacy feeds into our link about racism, because a white person, someone on a white team, should never be telling 2 women of color how they should be furthering their advocacy.
Oh, okay, I get it. So apparently the 2 girls on the other team were white in the debate, and her response to this was saying, well, since you're white, and y'all, I don't know what the debate is, but I'm just guessing. Since you're white, you can't tell us about this. 2 women of color, how dare you? The problem I have with this is when you have this type of mindset, and I know you think you're being, woke, or you think you're being like a beacon of civil rights. You're marching into you're leading your people to salvation. But what you're really doing is you have an inferiority complex. When you tell yourself, or when you tell a group of people, and you said it's 130 people, that 2 white people cannot talk to you this way because you're a woman of color, it's basically the equivalent to when you have a little sibling and they say, Mommy, he took my toy, and the mom says, give him the toy back. The reason you tell is because you don't have the power to take the toy back yourself. And this is kind of what you're doing now. Instead of having the intellectual ability to prove these 2 white girls wrong, as you said, you're just going to basically gaslight them into saying, well, you shouldn't be talking to me like this anyways because you're white and we are people of color. So honestly, you're just racist. And this is kind of what I see a lot in society now. Instead of having a real debate or a real discussion, you kind of just gaslight white people into thinking that they're all racist. And this is what I'm assuming is happening now.
Independent link into our whiteness argument that gets dropped. You can drop them right now. out. They say we should have read things about the Hall of Shame. It's an identity cave. We are not trans debaters. We don't want to do that. Also, they don't put anything about women of color or queer women of color in their case, which means they also link it to the exclusion. There's no independent offense off of this. Then, at the bottom, all these stuff about the Louisville Project, their racist rhetoric and using the black labor as a way to further their advocacy is inherently racist as an independent reason to drop them. They say JJ wrote the argument, but no, Rebecca is a vehicle of the movement. You should never use a white person who's saying the Louisville Project and using it as an example of their advocacy.
This is sad. This is really sad because I'm assuming the people in the middle, you see Judge Byerman, Judge Gupta, and Judge Vasquez, they are the literal judges in this debate. It looks like a young Caucasian woman. I don't know the exact race. I'm just guessing. If I'm wrong, correct me. A young, I don't know the race. I don't know the race. And Judge Vasquez, name sounds Spanish. Maybe Spanish, I don't know. All I'm saying is it's a diverse panel of judges. However, none of them are questioning her. None of them are questioning her because what she's saying is kind of what happens a lot in society. You have this young woman spouting racism, spouting bigotry against whoever she's competing against. And they're kind of in a place where they may think she's wrong, but we'll never know because they're too scared to stop her. They're too scared to say, hold up, you're being a little racist right now, because the roles were reversed. And the roles have been reversed a lot in society. And they were like, well, you're two black women. You know nothing about what that would obviously be racist. And all I'm saying is, if all it takes is to replace one word, like one normal word like black, white, a description to make something racist, then the statement is naturally racist. Like, they're too scared to stop her. And this happens a lot in society because they think she's right. Or maybe they think she's wrong, but at the end of the day, no one's saying anything to her. And that's the problem. People need to speak out a little more when they see things like this because it's not right.
In order to further a movement, then using black suffering to advance in the tournament is just a bad thing to do. Then they say that it's just an example. A white person just shouldn't use a black person's suffering as an example of their advocacy. That's inherently a racist thing to do, and it's too late to respond to this argument in Final Focus, and it's the largest dropped argument. There's also another dropped argument that links into racism about how they're telling us how to represent our advocacy.
Whiteness is bad for queer people. You know what? Someone find me a gay white guy, and I'm gonna find out what's what on that one.
Yeah, I don't really understand this, but it's 2024. I don't really understand a lot of things, and I'm just a little worried because these are high school students, and these are the future. Whether we want to admit it or not, these are the future. They will be adults one day. They will be voting one day if they're not of voting age right now, and it's a little worrying because I don't want anyone to bash any high school students in the comments. It's probably a little too late to say that now, but I really don't. Let this be a teaching lesson. If you have to say whiteness isn't good for a movement, then it's just racist. Because if someone said blackness isn't good for a movement, that's obviously racist. And I want people to understand that you can be racist to people who aren't black or people who aren't of color. You can be, and I've seen it happening a lot. And it's not doing anything but bringing us further apart. We need to get back to the point where we're able to have civil debates. We're able to have debates that make sense without insulting one another. But anyways, if you have any suggestions for me, comment down below. It's LFR Jojo, and I'll see you next time.